Welcome to the news on Nta News24. Live from Abuja, I am Salwa Khalil Ibrahim. The headlines. President Tinubu directs immediate release of minors facing trial in connection to the protests.
The President has directed that these children, these minors, be released immediately. This is, of course, without prejudice to whatever legal processes there are.
Nigeria and United Kingdom agrees on partnership in 6 strategic areas.
Livestock is not just a sector. It is a way of life for millions of Nigerians and a vital component
to upgrade 417 grazing reserves in the country. Nasarawa state government abolishes local government joint accounts. Details of the news now. President Bola Tinubu has directed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to facilitate the immediate release of the minors facing trial in connection to the recent protests in some northern states. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris, after meeting with the President, announced this to State House correspondents.
The President has directed that these children, these minors, be released immediately. This is, of course, without prejudice to whatever legal processes there are. Of course, if you look at this issue, there is the legal side of it, but there is also the human angle, the humanitarian side of it. Mr. President has directed that whatever the circumstances are, let the minors be released. They can, of course, continue whatever process there are, if indeed there are, as stipulated by our laws. But the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs has been directed by the President to ensure that they have safe return and reunion to their family members. And like I said earlier, if there are any infractions being committed by any law enforcement officer or any official of government, a disciplinary action will be taken against such person.
Nigeria and the United Kingdom have agreed to establish strategic partnership in 6 key areas. This is part of the outcomes as President Bola Tinubu received at the UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, David Lammy, in the State House this Monday. State House correspondent Musbah Wahab has more.
UK Member of Parliament and Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, David Lammy, is visiting Africa in this capacity for the first time. The largest economy on the continent and most populous black nation globally feeds his first peak. President Bola Tinubu too was elated to receive him. And for this, the President said Nigeria is fully committed to actualizing renewed agreements with the United Kingdom in areas that directly impact on the livelihood of citizens, such as arts, culture, trade and security. He noted that bilateral relations with the United Kingdom remain strategic for the country and the government would support partnership for growth. And so, President Tinubu urged the United Kingdom to strengthen relations with Africa by showing more interest in some of the conflicts affecting countries like Republic of Sudan, particularly the humanitarian issues. And after the meeting behind closed doors, Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tugga and the guest announced a milestone agreement between the two countries.
I am pleased to announce today the establishment of a strategic partnership between our two countries, which will facilitate greater collaboration through 6 key pillars: growth and jobs, enhanced national security cooperation, ensuring the safety, security, and dignity of our citizens, strengthening our international cooperation, a modernized development partnership, and sustained people-to-people links.
And in a volatile world, I believe that we will cement our historic friendship with Nigeria that enables us to pursue shared goals together. Nigeria is the first country I've visited in Africa as Foreign Secretary because of the importance I place on our relationship. This includes, of course, the people-to-people, many people. I've grown up with many Nigerians in the North London constituency of Tottenham that I represent, but the potential also to increase our trade over time and our shared Commonwealth membership and our cooperation on international security issues.
This new decision is in addition to an agreement on trade and investments signed earlier in the year by the two countries. From the State House, Musbal and Wahab, Nta News.
Still talking Nigeria's forest relation, by 2050, Africa will account for 25% of the global population, with Nigeria as one of its largest democracies. In the light of this, the United Kingdom aims to strengthen bilateral ties to enhance UK-Africa relations. UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs David Lammy made this assertion during the signing of Memorandum of Understanding with Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tugga. Garba Ta'ala reports.
Nigeria and the United Kingdom have long-standing history which deems it fit to enhance and reshape their bilateral ties, prompting the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding witnessed by management officials and journalists covering activities of the ministry. Earlier, the United Kingdom Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, David Lammy, advocated for deeper ties in trade and economic partnerships. Being his first official visit to Africa, the Secretary of State described his visit as renewed commitment for a stronger strategy to elevate UK's engagement in Africa, while Yusuf Tugga acknowledged the partnership aimed to boost economic opportunities of both countries. Meanwhile, the management officials of the ministry warmly received the newly sworn Minister of State, Bianca Ojukwu, as she resumes office. In Abuja, Garba Muhammad Natala, Nta News.
Nigeria has had its fair share in the economic challenges that ravaged the world post-COVID-19 era. But President Bola Tinubu is assuring that economic recovery is now on the horizon for the country. The president said this at the swearing-in ceremony of 7 new ministers in his administration. State House correspondent Musbaud and Wahab reports.
Seven new ministers chosen and deemed fit to reinvigorate the renewed hope administration in some sectors in the quest to further energize the economy of a country. Idi Mukhtar Meha is coming to pioneer the newly established Ministry of Livestock Development. Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, Minister of State Foreign Affairs. Suwaiba Saeed, Minister of State Education. Yusuf Abdullahi Atta, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development. Jumoke Oduwole, Trade and Investments. Nentawe Yilwatda, Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, and Muhammadu Megiri Dingyadi, labor and employment. They are coming in as the administration strives to surmount multiple social and economic challenges, and President Bola Tinubu believes in their capabilities to join his team in the turnaround mission.
And you are called upon to join the team to rescue this country. For us, it was a challenge when a nation was servicing its debt with 97% of its revenue. It's nothing but end of the cliff. But today I can report to you that we brought that one down and it's at 65%. We have never defaulted in paying our obligations. We meet all obligations, both foreign and domestic.
But despite the current challenges, the president is certain that the much-awaited better days are much nearer.
Economic recovery is on the horizon. We have taken the bull by the horn. We stopped the scavengers. We are going to stop completely the profiteers and smugglers of our resources across the country. We are not going to run away from our responsibility. We are going to face it, and we've been facing it headlong.
We are very confident that the new persons who have been added to this team will go along with us to ensure that we move in a very meaningful and purposeful manner.
And they've been fixed in ministries that actually almost tailored to their experiences, both professionally and in life generally.
I'm bundling that sector to ensure, one, sufficient and adequate food and nutrition for the country, safe operating environment for all the stakeholders in the country, as well as making the sector very, very attractive for foreign direct investment.
We need productive jobs. And what that means is that we don't just want any jobs. We're looking for jobs that deliver value for Nigerians. In the area of services, we're competitive. Nigerian youth are extremely competitive in the tech sector. In outsourcing, you would know Outsource Global and the initiative with the Office of the Vice President. Those are the kinds of interventions that will continue to further to deliver a vibrant economy.
It's a full team again for the administration, and the renewed hope rekindled. The assignment is as huge as the hope of Nigerians. From the State House, Musbal Wahab, Nta News.
Minister of Livestock Development, Idi Mukhtar Meha, has pledged to upgrade the 417 grazing reserves in the country to boost Nigeria's prospect in the sector. At a news conference, the minister also pledged to collaborate with the private sector to seamlessly address miscellaneous challenges confronting livestock businesses in Nigeria. Kunle Adeyeye reports.
Livestock is a sector with endless benefits. Leveraging on this, President Bola Tinubu constituted the Presidential Livestock Reforms Implementation Committee, principally to re-engineer the livestock sector. Now, the Ministry of Livestock Development has come into being.
As you are aware, livestock is not just a sector. It is a way of life for millions of Nigerians and a vital component of our food security, rural development, and cultural heritage. Our mission, therefore, is not just to grow this sector, but to transform it into a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive ecosystem for the private sector actors to thrive.
In the saddle is Idi Mukhtar Meha, who is well grounded in livestock business. He has now pinpointed the major hurdles like the herders-farmers clash and come up with antidotes.
From smallholder farmers to large-scale producers, we shall work to create an enabling environment that allows for investment flow, climate-smart livestock farming, modernization, commercialization, and a safe operating environment.
Besides this, he itemized vaccination of animals, collaboration with other two tiers of governments, and using accurate data as top priorities. Kunle Adeyeye, NTA News.
You're watching the news at 10 on Nta News24. We'll pause here. Stay with us.
From the creeks of the Niger Delta,
Many thanks for being there. Now, the new ministers of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction have assumed office at the Federal Secretariat Complex in Abuja. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Nta News24, and Minister of State, Dr. Tanko Sununu, both expressed readiness and pledged their commitment in building the confidence of the ministry against all odds, while urging staff to give their cooperation toward actualizing the renewed hope agenda of the current administration in reducing poverty across the country.
We, as a nation, must recognize, identify, come together as a people, and address them for the sake of ourselves and our future. That we should work together. It's an appeal I'm making to you today that give us that opportunity to work as a family, as a people, so that we can make a definite change within the shortest period that is left for us before the end of tenure of Mr. President.
We are going to provide leadership, guidance, and we will depend on you for your maximum input. Because you are the technocrat of the ministry, we also assure you an open door policy so that together we can march and move this ministry and country forward.
Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Nta News24 also assures Nigerians of a transparent and accountable leadership in providing effective humanitarian services to citizens. Political analysts have tasked the newly appointed ministers in President Tinubu's cabinet to address the difficulties in Nigeria today. Discussing the tasks ahead of the new cabinet members on Good Morning Nigeria, the guest said Nigerians have high expectations of the Ministry of Livestock Development and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment.
Livestock sector. All this nomadism and things like that must end. That when we were growing up, the best of friends in any community were the cattle rearers and the farmers. And they had a very good symbiotic relationship. At the end of the cropping season, the farmer will take away whatever he wanted and he will leave the chaff on the farm. He will invite the cattle herder to come and stay on his farm. The cattle will eat the chaff that was left behind, and then the droppings of the cattle will manure the farm for next cropping season. Second major problem he has is to restore the symbiotic and very brotherly relationship that used to exist between herders and farmers. So
Nigeria spends about $1.5 billion annually in the importation of milk and other dairy products. So I believe that particular ministry is critical, because when we start producing milk and other dairy products, we can be exporting to other African countries, and that will increase our foreign exchange reserve.
Away from Nigeria now, Americans scout for new leader as voting commences in the country's most diverse election after long work and talk between the Republicans and Democratic candidates. Oyeyemi Ajayi has details.
Voters in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire, have commenced voting at the polls early Tuesday morning, marking the official start of the election day voting for the 2024 U.S. presidential election. 6 registered voters of the tiny town in northeastern United States cast their ballots at midnight, following a tradition that dates back decades ago. Amid heightened security for fears of violence and chaos, the vast majority of polling stations across the country opened on Tuesday morning and will remain open until the evening. Prior to this, tens of millions of voters across the country have already cast their ballots early, either by voting in person at polling stations or by mail. According to data from the University of Florida's election lab, as of Monday night, more than 82 million voters had already cast their ballots in the election, widely regarded as one of the most divisive in American history. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris and Republican candidate Donald Trump have repeatedly warned against potentially catastrophic consequences inflicted on the country if the other is elected. Voters held vastly different views on key issues such as the economy, immigration, and abortion rights.
And joining us from the United States of America to provide analysis on the U.S. presidential election is Hamzat Lawal, the CEO of Connected Development. Many thanks for joining us, Hamzat.
It's great to join you, my sister, Dalwan.
So, what is the situation right now with the voting process? How are the polls going?
It's quite enthusiastic from citizens. We had a high-level briefing yesterday by the electoral administrator at the state of Maryland, where we have accreditation to observe the elections. They've received materials, they've deployed them. They're providing security using technology. And of course, they have the technology process and the manual process for voting. And they're expecting a large turnout of voters as polls would open at the state of Maryland by 7 a.m. But for us also, we're trying to, this mission is a joint mission between Nigeria and the Gambia. So we have civil society members from the Gambia and Nigeria that I'm leading to look at also campaign finance, look at the electoral process. And you know, there's a conversation in Nigeria around electoral reform. So what are the lessons we can learn that are best practice? What we can bring to integrate in these electoral reform processes ahead of 2027, so that we can continue to build confidence in citizens and roll back on voter apathy. I think one thing that distressed me is also the campaign finance, because when you look at the both candidates, Kamala Harris, for instance, have mobilized, gotten donation of over $1 billion. We know Donald Trump is close to $1 billion. Also knowing that Elon Musk, who is a private citizens who have businesses, are also mobilizing millions of dollars for their campaign, even if it's independent campaign finance. So we're looking at all of these dynamics as we follow the money for campaign in Nigeria, and how we can ensure that candidates and political parties would have a benchmark on what they can spend, how they can receive donation, so that there are no foreign interference.
Given your experience now as a Nigerian election observer, what key differences or similarities do you see between monitoring elections in Nigeria and the U.S.? What are some of the challenges that arise in applying your experience here?
So here, when you look at logistics, they've sort of gotten their logistics, and they have a retainership with different companies that sort of handle how they move materials, sensitive and non-sensitive, because, you know, they always have elections every 2 years. Even if the presidential election is every 5 years, or 6 years rather. So when you also look at early voting system, so unlike in Nigeria, we don't have early voting system, but here people have been, you know, sending in their votes via mail. They've been dropping it at designated area. And this is also one thing we want to introduce in Nigeria, which, you know, some people are calling it diaspora voting, so that Nigerians in diaspora can contribute to the electoral process. And also, you know, election observers, journalists, because we know on election day, a lot of us don't get to vote because of the commitment we've made to serve motherland. So how can we also get armed forces to vote? Also in prisons, because here, depending on the state laws, you know, the prisoners actually cast their ballots. So these are some of the dynamics we're learning. But here, polls open by 7 a.m. and closes by 8 p.m. So they even have you know, the capacity and infrastructure to allow polls to open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and even up to 10 p.m. because, again, they say even if it's 8 p.m., they would ensure anyone in the line or on the queue would cast their ballot. So again, it gives them a window of over 12 hours to cast their ballot. And you know, in Nigeria, we open polls mostly by 8 and close them by 2 p.m. So again, these are some of the lessons you know, we're going to take. But how do we holistically integrate technology whereby you have with manual and also electronic process? And here, when you look at their collation of results, unlike in Nigeria where you collate from, you know, the ward level, the local government, and before you go to the state, here in real time, results have been uploaded. And you would even see it on television on how you see, you know, the red and the blue line, which represent democratic votes, and the other candidates' vote. So again, this allows for transparency and accountability. So hopefully we can learn some of these takeaways, bring them to Nigeria and integrate them as we continue to build on our electoral process. Because again, when you look back, Nigeria have made significant progress. You know, when you go back to even elections in 2007 or 2011, you know, so again, as much as the BVAS is a game changer, we need to continue to strengthen our electoral integrity, review register, and continue to register more young voters and ensure that they imbibe the culture of democracy as we build a great country.
There are a lot of lessons to take back, Hamzat. Now, at Nigeria and the world, you know, attention is on today's presidential election in the United States now. Will the outcome now of this election have any impact on Nigeria?
Oh yes, it does have impact on Nigeria because we know that the American people and government is a big partner to Nigeria. We also know the role they play around democracy in the world at large. We also want to see how, because you see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government is big on trade, and that's why you have a new Minister for Trade and Investment. So again, it's an implication around what kind of trade and investments would Nigeria and America go into. Also, what kind of bilateral relationship? How do we build on existing bilateral relationship and expand on them? How do we also depend on foreign direct investment? How do we also get aid, particularly now that you have a new Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction? So, you know, this would go a long way on how USAID, for instance, will continue to support that commitment by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, working closely with the minister. Also around global peace and insecurity, because we know, again, America supports the Nigerian government, and we know that the National Security Advisor have a strong tie with the United States of America. So there's a lot of positive implication about the outcome and what likelihood it has positively on Nigeria, and how we'll continue to become closer friends with the United States of America and our great country, Nigeria.
Okay, Hamzat Lawal, CEO of Connected Development. Many thanks for your analysis. Good luck out there. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you, my sister Salma. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Now, next is another break. We'll be back soon.
You know the geography of Nigeria, but we're not a nation. A nation is a group of people with a shared vision.
In many states of the Federation, with a few exceptions, we have only 2 tiers of government. The local government is completely gone.
Insightful, thought-provoking, and engaging.
Those countries that we go to buy refined petroleum products, or technically what we call distillates, are we saying their economic and political leaders are fools?
What you see that is happening in the urban area is not happening in the rural area. There's no balance. There's no holistic or concerted approach to development.
Every development is local. You know, every underdevelopment is also local. I think what we need is to promote national development.
Good Morning Nigeria, the Nigerian Television Authority's flagship program, brings you all you need to know on current national issues that affect you. With expert analysis from professionals from all fields of endeavor, Good Morning Nigeria is your daily tonic of accurate, fact-based and intellectual discussions on issues that matter to you. Airing every weekday live between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. on the network service of the NTA. Repeat broadcasts at 5 p.m. daily on NTA News24. Don't be left out. You can join us by tuning in to NTA News24.
Many thanks for being there. Now let's talk business. Africa's $5 billion energy bank is set to debut in January 2025 as Dangote Refinery sells petrol at 960 naira per litre to ships, 990 naira per litre to trucks. Vivian Izidifi brings us more details in this business package.
The federal government has announced that the highly anticipated $5 billion African Energy Bank will commence operations on January 28, 2025. This marks a significant milestone in enhancing energy access and development across Africa. A Nigerian delegation led by Ambassador Nicholas Ella, Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and Executive Board member representing Nigeria at the African Petroleum Producers Organization, made this disclosure at the 19th Executive Board meeting in Yaoundé, Cameroon. Representatives from 13 member countries attended the meeting, where Ambassador Ella reiterated Nigeria's commitments to the ideals of APPO and the immediate establishment of the Energy Bank in Abuja. Nigeria won the hosting rights for the African Energy Bank headquarters in July 2024, beating out Ghana, Algeria, South Africa, and the Benin Republic. The African Energy Bank aims to bridge financing gaps in the continent's oil and gas industry. This development is expected to boost energy production and accessibility across Africa. In a related news, Dangote Refinery has disclosed its petrol prices, 990 naira per litre in trucks and 960 naira per litre into ships. This follows claims by the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria and Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria that they import products at cheaper rates compared to Dangote. Dangote Refinery, however, clarified that only substandard products can be imported at cheaper rates than its own. The refinery follows the pricing benchmark set by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and even offered lower prices for sales into ships. With business, Vivian Izadifu.
Many thanks, Vivian. Now away from business. In a bid to promote sustainable development and environmental stewardship, the National Environmental Standard and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NASREA, has launched an initiative to sensitize judicial officers on circular economy. Mina Daniels was at the workshop held in Abuja aimed at equipping judges and magistrates with the requisite knowledge and skills required to mainstream circular economy principles in their decision-making processes.
The National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRA, has organized a groundbreaking capacity-building workshop focused on circular economy for judicial officers. The workshop brought together judicial officers from across the country to explore the principles of circular economy and its application in the dispensation of justice.
To understand that there is an environmental law, and there are several guidelines and frameworks that culminated into environmental laws. And when these laws are violated, there are consequences for violating them.
Judicial officers engaged in interactive sessions discussing challenges and opportunities in implementing circular economy practices in Nigerian courts, while experts highlighted the importance of integrating circular economy principles into Nigeria's judicial system, citing benefits such as reduced waste, increased resource efficiency, and job creation.
It's important that the judiciary that is going to be the administrator of this process is brought into the fore, because very often environmental violations are taken very negligibly in our environment, not only from the standpoint of the common man, but sometimes even from the point of the law.
The workshop marked a significant milestone in Nigeria's journey towards a circular economy. With the judiciary on board, the country inches closer to achieving a more sustainable tomorrow. In Abuja, Minna Daniels, Nta News.
Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Authority is spearheading a regional training focused on occupational radiation protection with the aim to enhance safety standards across Africa. This initiative, in partnership with International Atomic Energy Agency, brings together experts and stakeholders from various countries to bolster understanding and implementation of radiation safety protocols in workplaces. Ekene Ndului reports.
The training taking place in Abuja underscores Nigeria's commitment to promoting a culture of safety and compliance in handling radioactive substances. Director General of the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Authority, Dr. Yao Usman Idris, emphasized the importance of such regional training in building a strong, unified approach to radiation safety within Africa.
We are starting with 25 countries. You can see we have 25 countries here in Nigeria to training them on occupational exposure for industrial and also medical application of nuclear and radioactive materials. And this is just the beginning.
Participants engaged in series of discussions led by professionals in the field, covering topics such as regulatory frameworks, risk assessment, and emergency preparedness.
In the end, they have a good argument on how to optimize what options there are and which options you will choose based on the analysis that the participants made. That's actually what they will learn.
Expectations for this training basically is to learn from others and from the experts on the best practices for optimization.
The insights and collaborative efforts shared during this training are expected to enhance regulatory practices and safety measures across Africa. In Abuja, Ekene Ndului, Nta News.
The Energy Commission of Nigeria, in collaboration with ECOWAS Commission, has officially launched the National Energy Information System, a groundbreaking initiative aimed at enhancing data collection and analysis within the country's energy sector. The initiative is designed to provide accurate and timely information on energy production, consumption, and distribution, facilitating better decision-making and strategic planning. Stakeholders at the event emphasized the importance of data-driven policies in addressing the country's energy challenges.
In terms of exports, the energy exports, and also what happens in terms of our energy utilization in this country.
With this data, you will be able to see where there are leakages in the transportation. And then you will see where these energies are being driven to real time, and you know the leakages. With the leakages and what we are delivering, you'll be able to know what we are going to generate further.
Energy, as mentioned by my predecessor, is the engine of all economic development, and no energy policy can be effective if it's not based on a series of statistics.
The initiative is expected to play a crucial role in supporting Nigeria's energy transition goals and achieving long-term energy security. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has expressed commitment to meeting the 2030 deadline set by the Sustainable Development Goal of providing universal access to water sanitation. This is as the Rural Water and Sanitation Agency inaugurated a solar-powered borehole in Barangoni community in the Buari Area Council. Onoze Yakubu was in the community and now reports.
Barangoni is an agrarian community in Buari Area Council lacking potable water, hence the construction of this solar-powered borehole. The Chief of Staff to the FCT Minister Chidi Amadi emphasizes the need